when you're talking about guys that people love to hate, you could end up talking about any good player, depending upon your fan allegiances. Like, if you're a Red Sox fan, I assume you detest Mariano Rivera. How could you not? The guy had his foot on your neck for 2 decades. Well, most of 2 decades. But does the average baseball fan hate Rivera? I'd reckon no. Personally, I always liked Mariano's understated dominance. He was the best ever at a role very prone to theatrics and posturing, but he just went out there, threw a bunch of cutters, and beat you. For 20 years. I do enjoy a manic, loose cannon type closer too, but there's something likable about the way Rivera did it. So I'm going to try to put together a roster of guys more universally hated. But I'm going to fail at this because the only way a guy is going to be universally hated is to be some sort of sex creep like Chad Curtis or Mel Hall. Usually, if a lot of fans hate you, it means you're probably really, really good. In which case, your team's fans are going to love you. Unless you are catcher AJ Pierzynski. Ozzie Guillen's quote about AJ Pierzynski subtly contradicts that notion. He said, if you play against AJ, you hate him. If he's on your team, you hate him a little bit less. Pierzynski inspired a lot of angst in opposing players and fans, but perhaps the most fiery angst came from his own skipper in Chicago.
Do you consider AJ Pierzynski a serious candidate to manage the White Sox in 2025?
Oh my God. Oh, don't make me kill myself. Is AJ managed the White Sox before me? I burned the ballpark.
First base, Pete Rose. Pete's over-the-top playing style inspired the great nickname Charlie Hustle, in addition to a lot of animosity from opposing fans. Definitely a guy you love if he plays for your team, but I think it's safe to say that Pete kept it a little too real. I mean, the dude separated catcher Ray Fosse's shoulder in an All-Star game. I know the All-Star game was much more competitive back then than today, but still an exhibition game. And of course, Pete's betting on the Reds as manager helped a lot of Rose detractors to double down on their hatred. Second base, Chase Utley. Utley had an over-the-top intensity similar to Pete Rose. This is probably the play that comes immediately to mind for you. Utley's takeout slide that broke Ruben Tejada's leg and led MLB to change the rulebook. I'm not going to include every guy who ever overdid it on a takeout slide on this list, but this one was pretty out there, especially for 2015. Hal McRae, of course, is the most famously out there guy when it comes to takeout slides. Like, dude was just way out there. But that was the 1970s. By 2015, these slides were much more scrutinized. But that's not the sole reason for Utley to make this list. The way his own teammate, Jimmy Rollins, described Utley makes him sound like an aloof, ultra-competitive freak. The slide is just a symptom of that demeanor. And the slicked back hair is another indicator. First time I saw Utley with his hat off, I knew what his whole thing was.
Slick back hair, white bathing suit.
White Ferrari, live for New Year's Eve.
But people can change, and Utley has perhaps recuperated his reputation by appearing on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and sporting a pushed-back look. But even then, you could tell that would faux hawk up real nice.
Oh, yeah!
Nope, you're not getting off this list, Chase. Third base. Jazz Chisholm. Okay, do yourself a favor and never spoonerize this dude's name, or you'll never be able to say it properly. Chisholm is probably the biggest heel in the league at this point. He was fairly anonymous prior to coming to the Yankees last year, but he has done a douchebag speedrun. To his credit, he's embracing this heel turn.
Go ahead and boo me. You're giving me some music to at least walk up to.
But it's shit like this invented aggrievement that really rubs people the wrong way.
For the way that he tagged me, it's just, I didn't like it.
I work on my hair a long time, and you hit it. He hits my hair.
Shortstop, A-Rod. I mean, this might be the guy you think of when you think of hated guys. I'm sure when he was breaking out with the Mariners, Seattle fans loved him, but things soured when he chose not to return to Seattle when he hit free agency. I mean, the Rangers offered him a lot more money in years, but fans are always upset when a player goes for the money. Then, certainly Rangers fans loved A-Rod through his elite 3-year stretch in Arlington, where he posted an AL-leading 25.5 WAR, right?
Not really.
The Rangers were never good with A-Rod. He was clearly one of the best players in baseball, but there was the notion that he sucked all the air out of the room. He was clubhouse cancer. And when you saw the Mariners use all the money they saved not paying A-Rod, go out and assemble the best team in history, you might put two and two together and think, we've got a great offense around A-Rod. If we spent that money on some pitching instead of rolling this out there, we might actually contend. And once again, A-Rod went scorched earth on the fan base on his way out of town, requesting a trade because he didn't want to play with 24 kids when the Rangers started to rebuild. Once again, the team he left got immediately better, although not as drastically as the Mariners did. So then came A-Rod's up and down tenure in the Bronx. There were a lot of Yankees fans that pretty actively hated A-Rod while he was a great player for the Yanks, due to him being perceived as unclutch. They were like, A-Rod would never make the clutch move of ordering a pizza at 1 a.m. for the Honey Badger. And his infamous slap in the 2004 ALCS was a defining or corroborating moment for a lot of fans' hatred of A-Rod, whether they be Yankees fans, Red Sox fans, or fans of any other franchise. Doubt there was a single person out there that was like, wow, what a cool play. Now, certainly a lot of Yankees fans do like or even love A-Rod. He did put the clutchness claims to rest in the 2009 playoff run and helped bring the Yankees their last World Series win. The fact that there are all these reasons to hate A-Rod, and I didn't even say anything about steroids or centaurs or this photo, says a lot. Left field, Barry Bonds. Barry's one of those guys who was absolutely loved by his fan base. Giants fans adore Barry Bonds. Pirates fans, well, that's more complicated. Not even for the ubiquitous great player leaves small market storyline. Barry's final moments as a Pirate left a bad taste in Pittsburgh fans' mouths. This was the last postseason moment the Pirates would have for over 20 years. Their star player making an up-the-line throw, allowing slowest man on earth, Sid Bream, to score the walk-off run by an eyelash, then immediately leaving for San Francisco. But apparently it's worse than that. Allegedly, before this play, center fielder Andy Van Slyke told Barry to move in a little bit and left, and Barry flipped him off. But if Barry's playing in just a few steps, the Braves probably have to hold Bream. So there's that. Then, of course, there's the steroids, which led to team owners all deciding not to offer a league minimum contract to a guy who on-based .480 and OPS'd 1,045 the previous year. That is pretty lame. But you know what? Barry was an asshole. And I don't think he would really even take that as an insult.
That's my game. I don't want you to like me.
The dude's college teammates voted to have him removed from the team despite being the best player on the team. He got into several altercations with teammates and coaches and reporters over the years. Would it have been worth bringing this guy into your clubhouse? I mean, yeah, probably, if the dude is on basing nearly 500. Center field, Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb has been portrayed in media as a brutal racist and generally despicable person. Most of these monstrous characterizations stem from the work of Cobb's biographer Al Stump, who wrote multiple books about Cobb that were released after the Hall of Famer's death. The Tommy Lee Jones biopic is also based off of Stump's work.
Everybody hated him, and he loved it.
But the veracity of Stump's reporting has been called into question. The book Terrible Beauty paints Cobb in a less sensationalist light. For example, Cobb came from a family of Georgia abolitionists, a tidbit that seems to contradict the cartoonishly racist depictions. Could he have been an awful racist and come from an abolitionist family? Sure, of course.
Ty Cobb was very hostile to people. And he wasn't only mean to blacks, Ty Cobb was mean to anybody.
An example of this can be found in Charles C. Alexander's biography, another book with some specious claims. It tells the story of Cobb beating up 3 black hotel employees. It was true that Cobb did beat up 3 hotel employees, but it appears that they were all actually white. In fact, Cobb had this to say about integration in baseball throughout the first pitch at Detroit's Hamtramck Stadium, home of the Negro League's Detroit Stars, and toward the end of his life, Cobb said the only player he would pay to watch play was Willie Mays. But he seems to have been more of a misanthrope than anything. So I'm going to go ahead and disregard this aspect of Cobb and focus instead on him as another overly competitive guy, much like the man who would eventually break his all-time hit record. Cobb was quoted as saying, "Baseball is a red-blooded sport for red-blooded men. It's no pink tea. and mollycoddles better stay out. It's a struggle for supremacy, a survival of the fittest.
Wow, that's messed up.
So you can understand why a lot of opposing fans and players disliked Cobb.
None of us could stand a son of a bitch when we were alive, so we told him to stick it.
Right field, Jose Canseco. Jose is a guy who is simultaneously a hater and a hatee. The dude was an instigator of the steroid era and then drew the ire of his contemporary little buff boys by writing a tell-all book. But his hatred for A-Rod is legendary, apparently stemming from an affair A-Rod allegedly had with Canseco's wife. That is a contempt that knows no bounds. DH, Aubrey Huff. When a journeyman has an incredible career year to help bring a city its first ever championship, but then is disinvited from that team's 10-year reunion, that's a hated guy. Now, I don't think teams should disown players for their political views, but when you've got a sycophantic Trump supporter like Huff and a libbed-up city like San Francisco, you can understand it. But this guy is easily hateable on other grounds. In the most divorced dad move ever, my man DM'd this Christian influencer half his age on Christmas Day to, quote, collab over cocktails. If there's anything a Christian lady loves, it's being hit on via social media on Christmas. Shockingly, this didn't work, and the influencer released the DMs, leading to Huff deleting his account. Huff was also quoted as saying that there's no way women who have never threw a touchdown pass, hit a game-winning 3, or hit a 2-0 slider deserve half of a man's hard-earned money just for having his babies. Try hitting a slider, bitch, or you'll end up next to the fucking sand trap. Starting rotation, Roger Clemens. Roger had a pretty typical trajectory of hatred for Boston fans when he left the Red Sox for the Blue Jays in the 90s and then eventually joined the dreaded Yankees. And of course, you've got the steroid allegations as well, potentially exemplified by this rage-filled moment in the 2000 World Series. Also, the frosted tips are a totally valid reason to hate this dude. Curt Schilling, another Red Sox pitching legend whose Boston heyday turned pretty rotten. Schilling has flirted multiple times with running for office, a generally disreputable thing for an ex-sports star to do. Schilling has said and tweeted a lot of inflammatory things that might have once ruined one's congressional ambitions. But nowadays, I don't know that it matters so much. So maybe he'll still run. Schilling was fired from ESPN for tweeting a meme equating Muslims with Nazis. And then also, it turned out Schilling himself is an avid collector of Nazi paraphernalia. But that's not weird. He hates Nazis, but collects all their stuff. That's normal. It's just like how Red Sox fans often maintain an extensive catalog of Yankees memorabilia. Schilling is also despicable for the way he ran a taxpayer-funded video game company into the ground, not paying employees or contractors, and even promising to pay for employees to relocate to Rhode Island and then not actually paying for it. The company had also stopped paying employees healthcare premiums, which it's the sort of thing that seems downright criminal, but no charges were brought. The company's insurers would pay out $2.5 million to Rhode Island's Economic Development Corporation for fraud. Employees who had lost wages were eventually paid 9 years later at 14 cents on the dollar. Now, Schilling definitely had a Hall of Fame career, but his reputation has definitely kept him out of the Hall. He would later lament that he was being lumped together with steroids abusers being denied entry into the Hall of Fame, specifically citing Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. I'm now somehow in a conversation with two men who cheated, and instead of being accountable, they chose to destroy others' lives to protect their lie. I will always have one thing they will forever chase: a legacy.
You sure about that?
Pedro Martinez. All right, we'll just go with a trinity of great but hated Red Sox starters. Pedro's not as hated as those last two, I don't think, but he did inspire a lot of ill will from opposing batters for his frequent headhunting. And boy, did he set off Don Zimmer. That is some hatred. And there's some of his patented headhunting. Jack Morris. Morris is a divisive figure for a number of reasons. First off, he's disliked among many in the sabermetrics community for stealing the title of Best Pitcher of the 80s from underrated guy Dave Steed. I mean, I agree with those viewpoints, but can you really hate a guy because he was overrated by certain stats? But when you couple that with Morris's reputation as an abrasive jerk, it makes sense. When Pat Mahomes 1 came up with the Twins, he asked teammate Morris if he'd show him how to throw his split-fingered fastball. Morris said, allegedly, "Get away from me, motherfucker. You'll be trying to take my job next year." Good Lord. Morris was also suspended from his job as a Tigers broadcaster for doing a cartoonish Asian accent when talking about Shohei Ohtani. And of course, there's his comment to a female locker room reporter, "I don't talk to people when I'm naked, especially women, unless they're on top of me or I'm on top of them." Dave Stieb would never. Trevor Bauer. So this is why I decided to take down and repost this video. In the previous version, I talked about Bauer's sexual assault allegation that got him exiled from MLB, and referenced this article stating his accuser was charged with criminal fraud and extortion in relation to her Bauer accusation. But this is a totally separate sexual assault allegation from the one that led to his MLB suspension, and I got them mixed up. Dude's got so many SA allegations that some are running interference for others. The initial one was settled out of court, with Bauer then later suing his accuser, Lindsey Hill, for violating the terms of that agreement by publicly claiming that Bauer secretly paid her off to get her to settle. So I completely messed that up, and it's been bugging me that this was out there, so I decided to just go ahead and fix it. All your comments are gone now, like tears in the rain, but actually here they are in a screen grab. Please feel free to post your comment again about how I forgot Albert Bell. My apologies, and I'm making an effort to avoid this kind of thing in the future. Therefore, my extensive team of fact checkers have been sacked and replaced with a much more reliable team. No, not him. Get that guy the hell out of here. Like, launch him into the center field bleachers. I can't stand that guy. Anyway, there seem to be many online who would like to see Bauer get a second chance in the majors as he currently dominates in the vaunted Atlantic League. It's true that he never faced any criminal charges and his suspension was lifted, but I highly doubt this happens. Bauer was already controversial and dislikable even before the allegations, for many reasons, including this infamous temper tantrum in 2019. Bullpen. John Rocker. Do I need to even say anything here? This guy might take the cake for the most universally hated player in baseball history.
I'm going with him to speak to a school of disadvantaged children. Clearly a setup for like reporter with athlete story, right? We're driving there. I'm like, so do you like speaking to kids and disadvantaged kids? He's like, man, I hate it, but I gotta fucking do it.
Rocker hated everyone, and everyone hated him. Rival fans, neutral fans, and Braves fans themselves came to detest him.
Why is there a group hate against John right now?
Only his survivor team members stood by him.
John's our tribe member regardless, we got his back.
But not for very long. Oh, and since we talked about Pat Mahomes 1, here he is getting into it with Rocker at Super Bowl LIX. This was later admitted to be a staged publicity stunt for a Barstool Sports celebrity boxing match. So while we're here, let's just go ahead and take Mahomes. Can't say he was much hated during his playing days as he was a replacement level reliever. The hatred for him came a generation and a sport removed when his sequel became the dominant force in the NFL. Football fans outside of Kansas City, by and large, hate the Chiefs and Mahomes too. And maybe more than anything, the family of Mahomes too, including wife Brittany, brother Jackson, and number one, Jonathan Papelbon. Talked in another video about how Papelbon's 2006 might be the best modern closer season of all time, but he didn't receive a single Cy Young vote, possibly due to the amount of hate this sort of shit inspired. Rob Dibble. This guy lived up to the nasty boy reputation maybe a little too much, cultivating an over-the-top, aggressive headhunting vibe, going so far as to start beaning base runners. That's innovative. Mitch Williams. The Wild Thing had the most 90s douchebag vibe you could find. His whole shtick back then must have aggravated opposing fans to no end. And then he gave up the walk-off homer in the '93 World Series to turn his own fan base against him. And post-career, Williams has continued to make enemies. In 2012, when Brandon McCarthy was hit in the head with a line drive requiring brain surgery, Williams engaged in some bizarre victim blaming, criticizing McCarthy for not throwing inside enough. And if you want to see a couple of old-timers drunk on haterade, and also drunk, seek out this clip of Williams and Lenny Dykstra going at each other at a Philadelphia sports roast. It gets pretty real.
You found a way to fuck that up, just like you found a way to fuck up the World Series. What haven't you fucked up? I didn't steal my son's signing bonus. I didn't rob my mother.
You don't know the facts.
And speaking of Lenny, we've got to have a couple of representatives from the bad guys Mets. So we'll take Lenny and Darryl Strawberry.
We knew other cities hated us, and we loved it.
The Sith Lords of baseball.
Let the hate flow through you.
And did you know that Lenny Dykstra was thrice voted most hated player?
My claim to fame still is I was voted 3 times the most hated player.
Is this something that was really voted on? I'm betting Lenny just made this up, but can't deny that the bad guys Mets were basically the only team specifically built
For every person on a team is a bad person in real life. Everyone is a bad person. That's our promise to you. Everyone's a fucking scoffbucket.
backup catcher Yadi Molina. Now, if you're a Cardinals fan, you adore Molina, mostly. But he may be the most hated guy in the NL Central otherwise, due to his hard-nosed playing style and tendency to stir the shit. The Brandon Phillips brawl is the more notorious one, but this interaction with the Cubs' Chris Bryant over some unserious comments the mild-mannered Bryant made on a comedy sketch during a Cubs fan convention is more telling. Bryant even tried to defuse the situation later, but Yadi said no, this beef will carry into the season. Third base, Alex Bregman. Bregman already had kind of a douchebag rep. Then came the Astros sign-stealing scandal, which has left a hateful shadow over the careers of many guys on that team. After a career full of playing the heel, Bregman tried to say that anti-Semitism was fueling the backlash against him. I agree with this Reddit commenter. Vince Coleman. Coleman had a tendency to get on the wrong side of many people, as well as tarp machines. In his rookie year, he drew the ire of Rachel Robinson when he claimed to know nothing about Jackie Robinson. Then, after he went to the Mets, he feuded with manager Jeff Torborg and the rest of the coaching staff, and blamed Shea Stadium's Sandy Infield for, quote, keeping him out of the Hall of Fame.
You sure about that? That's why?
But then came the incident at Dodger Stadium where Coleman threw a firecracker into a crowd of fans, injuring several, including a 2-year-old girl. It's no wonder Coleman was voted into the bad player/hated quadrant on this Mets subreddit. Jeff Kent. Kent's a pretty generally unlikable guy. An aloof demeanor is not something that endears you to fans, even if you are a great player. Decidedly not a guy's guy. Kent not only didn't bro down with his teammates, he also threw shade at them, saying, "I don't hang out with the guys, never have. I don't go out drinking, look at porn, have a girlfriend, or get divorced." I guess his wife can hit a slider. Kent famously got into an altercation with Barry Bonds, which, well, what do you expect? That must have been a bummer of a clubhouse in SF in those days. But when he was playing for the Dodgers and called out Vin Scully of all people, I mean, come on, man. Why don't you call out Santa Claus while you're at it? So that's my team of hated guys. I hope you like it.
I like my whole team, actually. I love my team.
Let us know in the comments who we missed and who your most hated player is. And be sure to like and subscribe for more guys.
Yeah,